Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the SCV Law and Life podcast. I'm your host, Mason Roshdian. Today's guest is David Arato. He is the founder and CEO of Lexicon Legal Content, a company started in 2012 to solve a problem many law firms and agencies know all too well, which is getting consistently high quality legal content at scale. David isn't just a marketer, he's also a trained attorney, having graduated from St. Louis University School of Law, which gives him a unique edge in bridging the gap between legal expertise and effective content strategy. Before building Lexicon, he actually worked as a professional freelance cellist, bringing a creative perspective to an industry that doesn't always get associated with it. Today, he runs a company from Colorado with his wife and business partner, Aaron. David, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Mason. Great to be here.
So I know that we tried this once before, but unfortunately we had a little bit of a mishap. So we're gonna start all over again.
Absolutely. Hey, let me clarify one quick thing. Yeah. I don't maintain a law license, so I am not a practicing attorney. My wife is. So we are attorney. We are attorney owned, but I'm just going to go by JD.
No problem. I know. Well, I know you went to school, to the law school. I'll ask you about it.
I don't want to misrepresent that.
No, I understand. I know. So, actually, take a little bit of time, about a couple of minutes, and tell us about your background and how you got started in this business.
Absolutely. So let's go back all the way to 2009, graduating from St. Louis University School of Law. And during the bar study period, I started writing content for a small agency in St. Louis that no longer exists. And a couple things happened. My content that I was personally writing, started ranking really, really well. I mean, in position 0 in this, before it was AI overviews, obviously. And I realized pretty quickly that there was a huge market need for what I was doing, that if one agency needed me, that probably 100 agencies needed me. And I didn't need a law license in 50 states to develop a national business. And also realized that I had an opportunity here to start a white label agency that could work through other agencies and directly with law firms. Because at the time, and keep in mind, this is now 17 years ago, there were no content houses that were sourcing accurate, compliant legal content that was optimized. It was the Wild West. It was a bunch of freelancers. And I quickly realized that creating a single point of contact for law firms and agencies to be able to source accurate and optimized content solved a bunch of headaches, mainly working with freelancers where the quality was going to be questionable and they'd miss deadlines, et cetera, et cetera.
So do you work with, what size firms do you work with? Smaller firms, bigger firms, all over?
So we'll work with anybody, but I'm going to tell you this. Solo attorneys, with our solo firms, there tend to be a lot of churn. And I think that's structural in the firm, that no one really owns marketing, and they'll try something for 6 months and look at their line items and be like, you know what, we can cut this one. And they haven't given enough time to work. We found a sweet spot with firms being mid-sized firms and even larger firms, but not so large that they've developed their own in-house marketing teams, if that makes sense. Our ideal law firm looks like a firm, 5 to 15 attorneys. They have a CMO or they have a marketing director or someone in that role that is coordinating various marketing vendors to provide a comprehensive marketing platform.
Okay, so you just mentioned that sometimes it takes longer for something to develop.
Yeah.
So typically, how long does it take for you guys to see results for a firm?
That's a two-headed question, and I'll tell you why. I have seen our content rank in the AI overviews within a day or two. Now, does that turn into a case in a day or two? Probably not. So I think to really get an ROI on content marketing, you've got to give it a year. I know people don't want to hear that, but if you look at especially if you're in personal injury, if you look at your investment into content over the course of a year, zoom out from month to month. If you get one big case because of content marketing, it's going to be a huge ROI. I don't want to say 10x, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was, based on what content marketing costs to get into good position.
Right. So am I correct in that, look, I'm a solo guy.
Yeah.
right? I have a personal injury firm. I've had it for 20 years.
Yeah.
Um, but you're right. For us, it's really hard to keep something going for 6 to 8 months afterwards. If it doesn't work, we have to switch and
Yep.
pivot.
Absolutely. I get it.
But I would imagine legal writing might be a little bit different in the fact that you're creating a brand, right? As opposed to just make that you think one article is going to get you a client.
Absolutely. It is excuse me for one moment. Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
Um, yes, absolutely. It is a marathon, not a sprint. You need to develop not a huge, but a substantial body of content and let Google and now the AI platforms know that you are a resource for them to source. So more and more Google is providing AI overviews for legal questions. The last statistics I saw that almost 80% of legal questions were triggering an AI overview. So that means on top of the sponsored results, AI is generating an answer that's this long, answering the query, and then it's giving citations to law firms. So if you want to be that firm that's being cited, you need to develop not only one really great piece of content, but great content consistently, also developing like a big corpus of information that AI platforms and Google recognizes as a trusted source and draws from when it's surfacing answers for potential clients of yours.
So when Google does that, is it pulling from Gemini its own AI, or is it from all AIs?
That's my understanding, that it has switched, that it used to be two disparate systems, and now AI Overviews is pulling from the Gemini or it is running on Gemini. And also there's this whole query fan out thing. I'm getting a little technical here, but the initial query generates sub-queries. So basically the AI engine is doing the Googling for you. So it's just another layer of I'm not going to say just. I think one way to conceptualize it is another layer of abstraction over the consumer-led Google search. That
Okay.
Google is acting as your Googling agent, if that makes any sense.
Got it. Okay. Oops, I lost you for a second. Give me 1 second. Where am I? Okay, so when you guys write content, is it for websites? Is it for social media? A combination?
We do mostly on-site content. So think blog content, practice area page content. We also do third-party placements. So if you're looking to get yourself placed in a source magazine, so kind of think traditional PR, we will create that content on a law firm's behalf. We also do write social media content as part of our subscription packages that we offer to our law firms. When we work with agencies, it typically looks a lot different than when we work with law firms. So agencies that work in the legal vertical often use us as a white label partner. So rather than them building out a content team themselves and having to find a JD or licensed attorney to ensure compliance and accuracy, they rely on us and buy content from us and resell it to their end client. That service package looks a lot different than when we work with law firms, which is more like everything from content ideation and SEO strategy to implementation.
So what's your percentages working for firms versus agencies? Do you have
I'd say we're about 70% agency. So in terms of revenue, about 70% agency, 30% law firms. But those are numbers that we'd like to even out to 50-50.
Got it. And when you write content, does the firm or the agency give you any kind of tell you which direction to go, or is it something that you guys come up with?
So historically speaking, we have worked with agencies that already offer the services of SEO strategy, content strategy. So we've become a fulfillment partner there where we're receiving, it's often collaborative, but we're interfacing with their SEO specialist, and maybe there's someone called content manager on their team. We are given the parameters, target these keywords at this density, make it useful to the reader, make sure it's legally accurate, and make sure it's compliant with the rules of professional conduct. So that's our role with the agency partnerships. With the law firms, we take on much more of that, a much larger scope. And our services can be duplicative of what a larger agency is offering.
Okay. So I would imagine if you guys write content for firms in two different states, you want to make sure that the laws in each state might be different on a certain issue, like statute of limitations, right?
Absolutely. I mean, that's a great example. That's something negligence is negligence in all 50 states, I would say. Maybe they do things differently in Louisiana. So if we're talking personal injury, we're going to be talking about the same four elements of negligence. That said, I think those state variances are so important, especially today, because anyone can go to ChatGPT and say, write me 1,000 words on car accident law in California, right? It's going to probably get it right. Still needs to be verified, but it's not going to have those local variances that you as a practitioner know and can use to demonstrate that you're a real human being. Google's incentivized to surface good content that's written by people for people. It's not incentivized to surface AI slop in any way. So it's so important for us to go and look into, for example, is it a contributory negligence state? Is it comparative negligence state? Is it 50? Is it 51%? These little variances that vary from state to state are so important to let the search engines and AI know that this is legitimate, well-researched, attorney-reviewed content in the end.
Okay. And how do you guys go about showing the difference between what you guys produce versus what AI produces? So when Google searches, they can figure out, hey, this is somebody who actually wrote this, as opposed
Well,
to ChatGPT.
that's a great question. And it's truly demonstrating the four elements of EEAT, which is Google's framework for how to evaluate great content. EAT stands for experience, expertise, authority, and trust. And every piece of content we're infusing with elements of the lawyer's or the law firm's background and years of experience, if it's allowed in their jurisdiction, their case results, real world experience that ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity cannot have and cannot duplicate. So it's not going to be smooth, generic content that has no what's the word I'm looking for? Brand identity. Because good luck getting pure AI content to rank. Let's see how it does. Like I would love to see someone get AI content from ChatGPT and get it to rank #1 for a high value search term, because I don't think it's possible right now.
So I imagine since you guys opened your founding your firm in 2012,
Yeah.
AI has been the biggest change. Has that been the biggest challenge for you, or anything else that has also challenged what you guys do?
I'm going to say that AI has clearly, without question, been the biggest challenge we've dealt with. It's been extraordinarily disruptive on many levels. Like, let me give some examples. So there was a thought 2-3 years ago that the cost of content creation went to zero, right? And I was thinking, there was a point at which I looked at my wife and I was like, I think I'm going to have to go learn how to practice law at this point, because we're going to close our doors here in a year or two. Luckily, that didn't happen. And it became it became quickly apparent that pure AI content couldn't rank. So the job is completely changed. Do we use AI? Of course we do. It would be doing our clients a disservice if we didn't. That said, the output you're getting from us is not going to read like an AI wrote it. And again, the job has completely changed from what we used to do is source good writers who were very accurate and were able to write clean copy. And then our editing staff would make sure that it was, again, clean and grammatically correct. Now it's more about, so let me back up just a little bit. Our writing staff is fully remote. So we can't put a camera on their computers and watch them. I can't say with certainty that they're using AI or not. And the AI detectors don't really work. We've tested so many of them, and I've written content from scratch that's come back 100% AI, and I've put AI content into a AI detector that's come back 0% AI. So they're if they're accurate at all, they're not very accurate. But now our job is switched from the metric being good, clean, accurate copy to copy that doesn't read like a machine wrote it and that ranks well and actually provides value to the reader. So here's another example of how the job has changed. Information gain. adding something new to the conversation has become more important than ever. It's not enough to say, here are the 5 things you should do after a car accident in California. Go to the hospital, call a doctor, stick to your treatment plan, call a lawyer. You get the idea.
Yeah.
Everyone's written that article 500 times, 500,000 times. It's not going to rank. What do we add to that conversation? And that's the human creativity element. What do we add? Go ahead, please.
Yeah, you're right. Because that's the hardest thing. Because being a solo guy, I write my blogs a lot, and it's like, okay, what do I write about today? And you're right. What you just said has been written a million times. What can you add to it that's going to make it different? That's going to work.
So a little bit of free advice. One thing we've realized is adding something new statistically to the conversation really gets content to rank well. And that might sound like you have to go out and get a focus group and do a study and get a bunch of data. And no, it's not that. What it is look at this year's car accident statistics, look at last year's, do some simple math, and give Google and the AI platforms anything new to talk about. Anything new. Car accidents increased by 20% in Rancho Bernardo.
Got it.
Right? That's new information. It doesn't have to be deep academic and statistical analysis that requires a ton of resources. It's just adding a new piece of information to the conversation, because that's Google's incentive, and that's the AI's incentive, is to ingest new information. You got to feed the beast, right?
So my son, who's into computer science and computer engineering, says there's going to be a point where AI can only go so much, because it's going to start pulling stuff from the stuff it owned it. So if ChatGPT says something wrong before, it's going to pull that information as if it's counting on it, and that at some point it can't do any better. Is that?
I see that happening, because again, I said feed the beast as a joke, but I think it's true. And honestly, I think a lot of what your son is talking about, you said your son, right?
Yes.
Model collapse, I think, is the technical term for it. When it's ingesting, when AI is just ingesting more and more synthetic data, being AI content, it falls apart. And I made a joke about feed the beast, but this really brings me to the point that I think that what we're looking at now, I'm just going to call it SEO with a different hat on, because this is what we were doing 10 years ago, giving Google more information to ingest and to surface to its readers, because Google's incentivized. If you think Google wants eyeballs, right? And if it starts giving shitty results, people are going to go somewhere else. So its job is to give its users for free the best, because we're the ones paying. I don't know if you're running PPC, but we're the ones paying Google, right? The advertisers. The users aren't paying Google. So their incentive is to give them the best information so they keep coming back. And we were doing this 10 years ago. Give Google information to ingest and surface to the readers. Now, it looks different now because we're dealing with AI-generated content and getting content into the AI overviews and AI results. But it's fundamentally, if we're going to zoom out and talk about what we're doing as content creators, it is giving these algorithms high-quality content that answers a user query and giving them that content to surface so the user gets whatever result they want, whether it's information or to connect with your law firm, right?
Got it. Okay. So please tell people how to get a hold of you if they want your service.
Of course. You can reach me directly, david@lexiconlegalcontent.com. I'm all over social media. LinkedIn is my home when it comes to that. But you can find me very easily in our website, www.lexiconlegalcontent.com.
I know we were just talking about Google. There was a time Yahoo was there, but obviously I'm not sure if it exists anymore. Do you see anybody ever surpassing Google at any point for this?
I was at a conference recently, where Chris Dreyer mentioned this, and I thought the way he talked about it was pretty salient. Since 2022, I've made that mistake on podcasts before. It's dating me a bit. So 4 years ago now, everyone's been talking about OpenAI, because ChatGPT was like the watershed moment where it was right around Christmas, I remember, and we started using it and everyone's minds were blown. Wow, what does this mean for the labor market? What does this mean for knowledge workers? What does this mean for lawyers and accountants and physicians and radiologists? OpenAI has been on the tip of everyone's tongue for 4 years. It's not a good idea to bet against Google. They've got very, very deep pockets. I don't know about you, but I run my business on Google Business Suite. So I'm in the Google Docs and the Google Sheets and Google Mail. That's data that they have access to. They can pull that data anytime. That's part of our user agreements, right? They have extraordinarily deep pockets. They became a verb to Google something.
Yeah, which is I've been thinking about that for a long time.
Right? I mean, I was in college in those years, and to your point, I remember playing with Yahoo and Ask Jeeves of all things, if people can remember that one. And Netscape was one, I think, or was that just a browser? Long story short, these are old terms. Google, since it established market dominance, it has been the dominant player. And I see, if you're going to zoom out again and look at the long game, I wouldn't bet against Google. Especially because I think they're showing us, and I'm being long-winded, I'll wrap it up, I promise.
No, you're fine.
I see Google showing us the future of search. And actually, this ties into something I read on Search Engine Journal the other day, that agentic shopping kind of goes against human nature. People like to shop. People get a dopamine hit when they pick out their item, their pair of jeans, their personal injury lawyer, I don't care what it is, and they make a decision and they spend money on that decision. There's a dopamine hit. So agentic shopping kind of goes against what we enjoy about being human beings, right? So I think what Google is showing us, a hybrid model where we still have the 10 blue links where we can shop. I can go through the organic results and look at 10 different law firms on the first page and figure out who I like the most. Or I can rely on the AI overview that's answering my question and giving me some options up there too. So this either or concept of we're going to be talking to LLMs like ChatGPT and Claude that I'm conversing with, or I'm going to Google and doing a traditional Google search, I don't think that's the right way to look at it. I think it's really a hybrid future when it comes to search and the way human beings are interacting with search platforms.
Okay. So I want to make sure people understand why it's important to have someone like you do their content as opposed to AI.
Yeah.
So tell us.
So if you want to light your money or time on fire, go ahead and use AI and post that content. It's very unlikely for that content to rank well. And if you're in a regulated profession, I'm sure, Mason, that you've seen these stories of these attorneys using AI-generated cases and pleadings and being sanctioned tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, 3 of them just got caught in LA County. Yeah,
is that right? Well, it's terrible, and that's for attorney work product. I think that it's only a matter of time till we see. Of course, the sanctions won't be to the same extent, but I wouldn't be surprised if we actually saw a malpractice suit eventually. If your client that you had a attorney-client relationship with relied on false or misleading information on your website to make a legal decision that affected their rights, I can see a potential malpractice suit arising out of that. So if you're in a regulated profession like law or medicine or finance, it is critical to have someone reviewing your content. And if you've got the time to do it, more power to you. But I wouldn't give it to your staff.
I can even go further than that. Let's say you're a defense firm or you're a firm that bills hourly.
Yeah.
You use ChatGPT, gives you an answer in 30 seconds, but then you bill an hour for that work.
Yeah.
There's ethical issues there.
You can't do that anymore. And I don't know that we've seen anything. I totally agree with you, first of all. A broader conversation is, what does this do to our traditional partner associate model at the law firm? What does that do to it, right? If you cannot, you're right, you cannot bill out for the time that you're for this used to take you an hour, now it takes you 5 minutes. You can't bill for that time. So does the model collapse? And that's a big question.
Yeah. So your wife, she says she's an attorney. What does she practice?
She is my business partner, so she doesn't practice.
Oh, she does practice. She's just an attorney. Got it.
She maintains her license, and I don't. Okay, that's right.
It's probably a wise choice. Let me tell you, I've been doing this for almost 30 years now, and there are days you go, oh my God.
Yeah. I'm sure. This has been a really good fit for me personally. With my creative background, I think being in the content space and writing and creating content was a good fit personally. And also it's location independent, which has been very important to me in my life.
That brings the next question. Cellist, tell us about that. How did you get started?
Oh man, my dad asked me when I was 5 years old if I wanted to play the cello, and I said yes. And next thing I knew, I was, taking lessons. And then, I was like a sophomore in high school, and I was second chair of Allstate. And my folks were like, maybe there's something here. So I pursued it, and I pursued it professionally for some time. It's a very difficult life, and I don't mean just financially. I mean, even like the getting of the job part is hard. Uh, and I always thought law school was always in the back of my mind. And I didn't feel that being a practicing working musician was fulfilling all aspects of my personality in a way that I wanted to. Not to take away from anyone that enjoys it. I think it's a very noble and beautiful thing to do. And I still love music. But I had like a analytical side of my brain that once I was out of music school, which is very analytical, once I was out of music school and just playing cello for money, I felt like that part of my personality wasn't being fulfilled.
Yeah, no, I get it. My wife, she was a flutist or flautist.
Flautist, sure.
Yeah, she was like second chair in the orchestra at her university. I mean, she was pretty good, but yeah, her major was actually music therapy. But after we had kids, she stopped doing any of that stuff. But I understand it's hard.
It's a hard life. It's a hard life,
Yeah.
especially you get in this situation too, where I'm going to put it this way. So you're out of music school, so you're working and you're supporting yourself. At least in my case, I was supporting myself playing cello and teaching lessons. And then I would look at these auditions for orchestras. Like I remember Seattle Symphony had one that was open, and that one pays a living wage and has health insurance, and like it's a good job as a musician to get. It's a stable income, which is kind of the top of the mountaintop when you're a musician. And then 150 cellists from around the country showed up for this one position that at the time was paying $72,000 a year or something. And like half of the auditionees, or the candidates, I should say, were fresh out of Juilliard, where they had been practicing 6-7 hours a day, not out there working and supporting themselves. So like the further you get out of your academic, your bubble of conservatory life, where your job literally is to practice and get better, and you're out there actually working, at least for me, the further I got out, the less time I could devote to the deep preparation that is required to win an audition like that. Or maybe I just wasn't good enough. Who knows?
Do you still once in a while pick up the cello and play?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I have a couple of students here locally where I live. And I love to teach. I love to teach both adults and children. And I'm involved at least annually with their community orchestra. We put on a Christmas concert. And I'll tell you, even through law school, when I was in St. Louis, where I'd grown up, I'd left for college and come back, not initially for law school, but I was back in that market and ended up going to law school there. I was pretty well connected. So when shows would come through that were hiring a local orchestra, I would often get like those freelance jobs. Like I remember playing with Josh Groban one year, and Amy Grant came through town and I got that gig. And then in the summers, I would play with the Muni, which is it's the largest outdoor Broadway theater it's not Broadway, but puts on Broadway shows in the country. And that I would play with that too in the summers. So I was still performing and freelancing professionally through and after law school in that market. Now, since I moved, I'm not very well connected here, and it's not something I've pursued. So I haven't been able to recreate that here.
Got it. Okay. So let me ask you one question, which I ask all my guests toward the end of the podcast. Based on what you know today, if you have met your 10-year-old self and wanted to give your 10-year-old self an advice, what would it be?
Oh, wow. That's a really good one. And I'm going to give it a little thought. I think that I would tell myself to not wring my hands so much about my circuitous route through life. Like it's going to work out, because if you think about it, like I pursued cello, went to law school, got out of law school, then went into marketing, sure, legal adjacent, but like there was a lot of hand wringing and like, am I doing the right thing? Should I just go get a job at a firm? Should I leave St. Louis? Should I use my network here? And my life has turned out really beautifully. I live in a beautiful place, beautiful life. Things are good. But in that process, there was a lot of hand wringing and sleepless nights and worrying about it. So that's my advice.
All right. Tell people again how to get a hold of you.
David at lexiconlegalcontent.com, and you can easily find me on social media, and I run my own social media. So if you message me, you'll be talking to me.
Okay. Well, David, thank you so much for being a guest today. And for people who are watching, if you like this episode, please like and subscribe to our podcast, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Thanks, Mason.